guys, it's Untitled from SunBros, and it's time for another how to build video, and today we are covering the brand new to NA and SA Warrior Assassin Ryoma. Before we get started, guys, I just want to remind you, as always, if you guys enjoy the content, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course check out our other content like our other how to build videos, our top 5 videos, and of course our Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday night live stream. Alright guys, and as always, we're going to be starting today on Ryoma's hero page, as we always do. We're going to take a look at the things that make Ryoma who he is, and we're going to kind of get a good feel for him so we can figure out how best to build him. Alright guys, and of course Ryoma has been out EU for a little while, and I did play a good amount of Ryoma when he was on EU before he came out to NA. So we're going to go over his abilities real quick and see what he's all about. Alright, Ryoma's passive is Naginata Jutsu. Every 5 seconds, Ryoma's next normal attack unleashes a Shadow Blade that has a longer range and deals physical damage and reduces movement speed. Enemies hit at the very end of the Shadow Blade itself, which is a pretty decent distance for a melee hero, take 50% extra damage. Now his first ability is Pinwheel. Ryoma leaps backwards while extending his Naginata, dealing physical damage to surrounding enemies. If he does hit an enemy hero, the cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds. And the effect is stackable, which means that if you hit 2 enemy heroes, you don't get 6 seconds of cooldown reduction. You only get that one time. His second ability is Wailing Blade. Ryoma unleashes a Phantom Blade that deals a pretty good amount of physical damage to the first enemy and 50% damage to subsequent enemies in the path. And also, there's a little like triangle thing at the end, kind of a triangle-ish thing at the end of the ability, and everyone who gets hit in that little window gets stunned for 0.75 seconds. And his ultimate is Spectral Ire. Ryoma furiously stabs with his Naginata, inflicting up to 4 instances of damage on enemies. Every hit deals damage. For each stab that hits an enemy hero, Ryoma gains health. He can only get 1 set of health per stab, so if he hits an enemy with 4 stabs, he gets 4 health, but if he hits 2 enemies with all 4 stabs, he still only gets 1 increase in health per stab. Okay, so now we're going to go to the equipment page, and we are going to get started with building him. And one of the things I really want to address here is that for some reason, playing Ryoma in the jungle is frowned upon. I think he has a pretty good jungle clear. He has really good gank potential, so I don't really see an issue with playing him in the jungle per se. But I'm going to give you guys 2 builds in this video. One is going to be for the jungle, and one of them is going to be for in lane. The one we're going to be building first and explaining is the jungle build, and then I'll show you guys the slight variation we have on the second build. Now, starting off in the jungle with Ryoma, we're going to first be building our jungle item, of course, and it's going to be Leviathan. And the reason we're going Leviathan as our jungle item is because he benefits much more from the extra health and the passive than he does from the, you know, the small amount of life steal, and the attack speed that you get from Soul Reaver is not quite as effective on him. This Leviathan, and so I know part of a common strategy is to only build to the second item, Null Cleaver. So it's $750 difference between Null Cleaver and Leviathan. A lot of people like to build only part way. For the majority of players, games last long enough to where it's worth getting Leviathan, and I'll give you 2 reasons why. 750 gold is going to get you 800 HP right off the bat. Bam! That's an extra 800 HP, which is going to make him a lot more tanky early to mid game. And the burn from the unique passive Flame Magic, it deals damage just from being nearby. Now this is obviously maybe not as good on Ryoma as some other warriors, because he doesn't get quite as close. The distance is still, the distance that he generally plays at with all of his abilities is still close enough to make Leviathan's burn worth it. But where it really comes in handy, where it really is a difference maker, is in his jungle clear time. If you're going to be taking Ryoma in the jungle, be aware that this helps a lot in his jungle clear time because of all the burn that he does to monsters. It's actually it's really an underrated thing about Leviathan. A lot of people who only build halfway don't realize what they're losing in their jungle clear time. I can guarantee you that you're going to make up that 750 gold by having quicker jungle clear times throughout the next 5-6 minutes of the game. Easy. Not to mention what it does for you in a team fight or in any kind of fighting situation, a gank fight situation that you're going to be dealing with. So I definitely recommend finishing the item. Not finishing it doesn't really make sense for most people because it's super helpful in the jungle clear time, as well as the extra 800 health you get from it. Alright, next we're going to be going Boots. We're just going to be taking Gilded Greaves. Ryoma, like any warrior who doesn't have a way to break crowd control, is always susceptible to getting crowd control. And so we're going to give him the 35% resistance, which is going to reduce a 1 second stun, slow, knock up anything, any kind of hard or soft crowd control that he would receive by 35%. So from 1 second down to 0.65 seconds, it makes a big difference, especially in a very hotly contested game. Next, we're going to be going to the attack section, getting our first attack item on Ryoma, and it's going to be an item. So there's a pretty common debate with Ryoma on what to take with really this item slot, or whether if you're building him if you're building him as a laner, what you take first. And to me, it's not really much of a contest. I take Spear Longinus, and I'll tell you why. Spear Longinus, especially this early in the game, has the capability of giving you 250 armor penetration, right? An item like the other item that's really considered is Rank Breaker. Rank Breaker does give you a little bit more attack damage, and it gives you, I mean, the passive, the Windwalk passive is not really anything crazy here nor there. The second passive is 100 armor pierce plus 10 per level. So at this point in the game, you're not really near level 15 yet, and you're going to be looking at getting less than what Rank Breaker or what Spear Longinus can give you. And the reason why I like this is it makes him even more tanky early game with 150 armor. You get 15% cooldown reduction instead of 10. Excuse me, which comes in handy, and all his abilities are able to stack the passive, the shatter passive. So when you're decreasing armor, not only is it going to work for you and your teammates, but because his abilities can be casted in a pretty interesting rhythm where he kind of does an ability auto taxing and stuff like that, he can actually stack these really quickly. And remember that the actual passive doesn't just happen on normal attacks, it's any damage you do to the enemy. So stacking the 5 stacks on Ryoma, I don't find to be very difficult, and I don't find to be very tedious. So Spear Longinus kind of gives him a little bit of everything that he needs: cooldown reduction, armor, attack damage. His cooldowns aren't high, but they're kind of a very, very important part of who Ryoma is. And so, like, let's go back and look real quick so you guys see what I'm talking about. Passive is 8 seconds throughout, can be reduced by 3 if you hit an enemy hero, 10 seconds down to 7.5, and 12 down to 10. So like I said, they're not crazy high, but it is important to note that it helps to be able to do them more frequently, especially with the kind of player that Ryoma is, kind of hero that Ryoma is. Next, we're going to be going another defensive item, and one that makes way too much sense on Ryoma. It's Frost Cape. Another 10% cooldown reduction puts us at 25%. You get more armor, so now we have 450 from the armor on Spear Longinus and on Frost Cape, and we have 800 HP. Now, we have the 800 from the Leviathan. Leviathan gives 800, plus it obviously goes up when you get stacks. So, you know, you're getting a pretty good amount of health, pretty good amount of armor so far early game. And of course, Frost Cape's passive works very, very well with Ryoma, in which you reduce the movement speed and deal extra damage after doing an auto attack after an ability. Ryoma's kit has a natural rhythm to ability and attack, so it actually works really well. And the 3-second cooldown is longer than some heroes would like, but for Ryoma it's fine. It actually fits very comfortably with what his ability kind of combination will be once we get him fully built. He'll be able to do his ability followed up by an auto attack, and the 3-second cooldown is right in that little range, so you'll be able to proc that very frequently with Ryoma, to kind of how his toolkit acts. Alright, the next item is actually going to remain in the tankiness item, so he's really built as a very off-tank split. And we're going to go Medallion of Troy. Medallion of Troy isn't an item that I really like to go too frequently. I think it's a little bit overrated, but I do love the 10% cooldown reduction, which is going to put us at 35%, which is really close to that 40% maximum. And then we're going to be getting 360 magic defense. So now we have a good amount of armor. We have 360 magic defense from Medallion of Troy. We have 110 from Gilded Greaves for a whopping 470 on that. On the other side, we have 300 plus the 150, so we have 450 and 470. We're getting another 1000 HP to stack on what we're getting from Leviathan, and we're getting from Frost Cape. So now we're actually really stacking, very evenly stacking our magic defense, armor, and HP, which is a really solid thing for him. But I think the actual passive on this, now I don't feel like the shield really plays too much into many people's strengths. I think that's a little bit overrated, but I do like it on him because of the ability to get the shield during different times that he would need it. I also like the way that it could work with his if he's getting low on health, the way it would work with his ability to use it with his ultimate to get health back. So he could shield, get health back, and then by the time the shield is knocked off, he's got a decent amount of health back, and it's just really, I don't know, I really like the way it synergizes with his kit, as opposed to some people that I don't enjoy it on, like Arthur or something like that. I don't think it quite works as well with them as it does with Ryoma. So now we're talking about a pretty solid build, and we're gonna finish with an item for damage last. And so I will tell you guys real quick that Leviathan, the health is nice, but we'll go over that in the end. Let me continue and finish up with our final damage item, and we're going to be going all the way near the bottom to Fenrir's Tooth. The reason we're going with Fenrir's Tooth is because it's a crap ton of attack damage, and obviously the increased damage when a hero falls below 50% is a lot. 30% extra damage is nothing to scoff at, and when they fall below 50% health with Ryoma, can be fairly quickly, because Ryoma has he can cast his stuff really quickly and get you bursted down a little bit. It's pretty solid. I really love this item on him. And it gives him a nice finishing boost of damage in the game. Now, the one thing I wanted to mention about Leviathan is Leviathan isn't critical to who Ryoma is throughout the entire game. So there comes a point in the game where I would sell it, whether that's after you're done with full build and you want to sell it to buy something else, that's fine, or whether you want to do it maybe after somewhere around the Frost Cape to somewhere around Frost Cape to Medallion of Troy, or maybe right before Fenrir's Tooth. I wouldn't disagree with selling Leviathan for whatever that's worth, and buying another item. And if you're gonna buy another item, obviously I would probably still buy Fenrir's Tooth or whatever the next item is. But the new sixth item, if you will, in my mind, would be one of two items. Rank Breaker. In a lot of games, I don't generally advocate having two items that give you armor pierce. Now in this case, it would be one of the last items taken, so it would have used to have two of these. You'd get some more cooldown reduction. It's only 5% because you'd be going over your cap of 40 to 45. But I do like the 100 attack damage. I think that's super helpful. The little bit extra cooldown reduction always makes a little bit of difference. And then of course, you're getting, at this point, you're getting 250 straight armor pierce, which would be more worth it towards the end of the game when people are starting to get up there in armor. That's one option if you feel like you're doing really well and you want to just keep going with more damage. I think that the reason why 2 armor pierce items works with certain heroes, for example Ryoma or Zephys, sometimes, a lot of times with Zephys is usually what I build, is because their abilities do tremendously more damage with these things added onto them. And then the other option is, if you really feel like you are a little too squishy and you want to add a little more tankiness, I'd go over to the defense side and I would definitely look at buying Crimson Banner. 200 more armor, a ton of more health, and then the way Crimson Banner would synergize the passive, restoring 20% of your HP over 5 seconds after earning a kill or assist, the way that would synergize with the shield from our Medallion of Troy and with our healing that we get from his ultimate works really well. Alright guys, so that is the jungle build that I would suggest building. If you want to play him in lane, the build that we're going to suggest is going to be build number 2. It's a slight variation of what we're doing. It's Spear Longinus first, followed up by, so Spear Longinus first, followed up by Gilded Greaves, Frost Cape, and this item here is again a flex pick. The same way that I suggested you sell Leviathan for either Rank Breaker, depending on how you're doing, how the game's going, or going to the tank side and getting Crimson Banner. It's the same thing. So Rank Breaker or Crimson Banner will be your 4th item, followed by Medallion of Troy and Fenrir's Tooth last again. So those are the 2 builds. I'm going to show you again. This is the laning build. This is the build that you're going to do if you're going to play him in the jungle. Those are the 2 builds that I suggest you guys going on with Ryoma. I really feel like these are going to make a big difference from you. From my experience playing him on the EU server, as well as just kind of, you know, looking at his kit and just building something that I think is going to take advantage of what he does best, I think this is going to work out really nicely. They both give you, you know, this one gives you 35% cooldown reduction along with some really solid tankiness and damage, and the build in lane gives you the 40% max cooldown reduction unless you swap out Ranksbreaker for Crimson Banner, in which case you're going to be a lot more tanky. So it's really just on your preferred playstyle. But guys, that is it for this one. I hope you guys enjoy the how to build Ryoma video with 2 builds instead of the normal one. But thanks for watching, guys, and as always, till next time.